This is the eLearn podcast. If you're passionate about the future of education, you're in the right place. The expert guests on this show provide insights into the latest strategies, practices, and technologies for creating the most effective learning outcomes. My name's Laddick. I'm your host, and this show is sponsored by Open LMS. The eLearn podcast is sponsored by eLearn Magazine, your go-to resource for all things online learning. Click-by-click how-to articles, the latest in edtech, spotlight on successful outcomes and trends in the marketplace. Subscribe today and never miss a post at elearnmagazine.com. And Open LMS, a company leveraging open source software to deliver effective, customized, and engaging learning experiences for schools, universities, companies, and governments around the world since 2005. Learn more at openlms.net. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the eLearn podcast. My name's Laddick. I'm excited to have you here today. We're broadcasting live right now, but we're recording this 2/3 into the month of May. And I am excited to welcome my guest here, Fred Colantonio. Sorry, I just totally stumbled over your family name there. I apologize. Fred. Yeah. Well, I hope it's not that usual. Geez. I'm sitting in Mexico, and I know that you are in Europe. What part of Europe are you in? Where do we find you sitting?
Yes, you can either find me in France or in Belgium, but currently for the present session, I'm in Belgium.
In Belgium.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally talk about myself for a second, but I couldn't be more excited. My family and I have a 3-week European vacation plan this summer, and it starts in the middle of June. I'm so psyched to come see many countries over in that continent with my kids. It's going to be awesome.
Please come.
And so tell me, so tell us about, set the stage for us. You have a background in criminology. You have, I want to know how you got from criminology to leadership and, being a speaker and being someone who helps others make change in terms of, as is part of our title, right? How do you turn setbacks into climax, into success, into, this thing? So tell us about yourself first, and then we'll get into our topic.
Okay. Well, the topic is actually how we turn obstacles into miracles, if you like. And the obstacles or the bad parts of human being is part of the criminologistic job. At first, when you're a criminologist, all the things that you learn and that concern human psychology, sociology, and all the things that can lead even to pathologies. This is the background of a criminologist, right? And I fell in love with a course of study, and so I loved almost one or two lessons I didn't like, but most of all, I loved what I learned. And I didn't even know what a criminologist was, but I was eager to learn everything that these 5 years of studies offered me. Mm-hmm. And when I started working, first of all, when it's your first job, I don't know how you people in America behave, but in Europe, you are just happy that you have a job and you try and stick to it, okay? Even more when you get a job where you have an office and when you have people that works with you and for you. And so I would say as a first professional experience, it was really, really amazing. Mm-hmm. But I started to realize, and it clearly dawned on me quite fast, I was looking at the wrong side of human beings. Because let's face it, I'm an optimistic. I love when I see people turn hard times into great times. And I said to myself, okay, I'm on the roll to spend the next, let's say, 40 years of my life staring at what can go wrong. And this is not right. So to make the long story short, because we're not here to talk about me, I flipped the coin, and I still have the same, let's say, way of looking at things and people. I still draw behavioral patterns and stuff. It's just that I focused and I dedicated my full energy to take a look at if we can name, understand, and prevent some bad behaviors, can we name, prevent, or even promote good behaviors? And this is what I've been doing for the past 20 years, probably.
Fantastic. I love it. Wonderful. When you and I started talking about you coming on the podcast and everything, the most intriguing part to me was, you put the question out there. You said, we hear about it all the time. I know it's definitely a mantra in, let's just say, the Western world in general, but definitely the United States, where, hey, look, there's no, F is not failure, right? F is just, a possibility. Like, there's no such thing as failure. Like, how do you turn a failure into a setback? But what you said is like, okay, we know that, and people have been hearing it for a while, but how come most of us either don't believe it, don't do it, or are unsuccessful when we try it? And I think that resonates with a lot of people. It resonates with me, right? Where it's like, I keep showing up with the same bad habit, or I keep showing up with the same thing, I getting the same outcome, which may mean I'm insane. I know that, but
Mhm.
so start us there. Why, do you have any insights or data or anything like that about why this happens?
You know, my views are that we are in a society of response, and we want to go fast to have 3 steps to do this, or the definitive method to go from there to there. And it's okay. It's okay. And for a lot of things, it works well, and it helps a lot of us. But the problem that arises alongside with that is that we tend to skip the definition part. What are we talking about? When we talk about failure, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for us as a community, as a society, as a classroom? How do we define it? So some people say, okay, this is maybe a little too intellectual, or a little too theoretical. Not at all, my friend, because if we skip this part, we take for granted a background that may be really different for you and I. Let's say, for example, that for you, failure is an opportunity because you've learned that it's a great way to grow and that it's a lesson from life. Okay, I'm fine with that, and I will go further than that. I agree with that. But let's say that me, with my background, with my learnings, with my experience, with my previous failures, I have learned and I have printed in my mind that failure is bad, it's negative, it's something to be avoided because it leads to shame, to name, and to blame. If we take this, put that in a classroom, for example, if the teacher is, let's say, you will be really supportive, and that's good, that's cool. But if for myself I still believe that I screwed up, and I'm a failure, and I identify with the bad things that I just done, or the bad result, the bad outcome, we will have different perspective, and we will start from a background that is different, and it can lead to miscomprehension between you and I, because it's not communication. Yeah, of course, communication is involved, but it's even more rooted in who we are. Do you know how I understood that?
No, tell me.
First of all, because and this is, let's say, most of my time and most of my job consists in, first of all, keynote speeches all around the world. I'm lucky for that. And when I'm not speaking on stage, I am within companies, and I'm helping people understand themselves better, become better leaders, become better innovators. And of course, if you want to be better leaders, you have to understand how you deal with failure. And if you want to be better innovators, you've got to understand that failure is part of the process, etc., etc. And I understood a few years ago that one stepping stone to change mindset and to produce new behaviors that last was to talk about that directly and to go deep there to say, okay, you said that you screwed up and this is bad or not bad. How is it really? And how do you define it? And why, if it's not that bad, are you still talking about that? I wasn't there. It was years ago. And when we talk, you and I, you still come back to that event or to that person who you are in argument with. And obviously, there are still things that are left unresolved. Let's talk about that for a while.
Well, I'm offering you the opportunity. Let's talk about that for a while, because now, in my mind, I'm also kind of wondering the word failure, because you started as like, what does it mean to you? Like, let's define what it looks like. And I know for me, like one of my greatest fears is looking stupid, right? So it's just like, so if I accidentally miss a meeting, or if I've, come late on a deadline, or, maybe I deliver something and it's not the quality that I want, or it's not really that it's not like, I would never say it's a failure. It's like, gosh, I'm going to look really silly. I'm going to look stupid in this. Right. And so that's how I would define the failure. Is there talk me through, like, what does that spectrum look like in terms of how different people think about failure, first of all, but then I want to then kind of take us to that next step of like, what would be a first step to start thinking about that? Because I think that's, I feel like that's the next step in towards to say, how do we turn these moments into opportunities for success, opportunities to shine, opportunities to grow?
This is the right way to go, by the way. So whenever you want to tackle the topic, the first thing you have to ask yourself is identify failure. What does it mean for me? What representations in my mind come, and how does it reflect on who I am, how I see myself, but how others see myself? Educations, schools, colleagues, teammates, or whoever you have talked to in your life can be a mirror. And this is the second thing. And the third thing is the environment where you live, how you grew. Have you traveled a lot? Have you did you meet a lot of people that were with another culture, or not? And there are no right or wrong answers. This is what is fascinating about the topic. And you can read any book you want that goes that talks about the topic a little bit or a lot. Any person who ever dig into the topic will say that to you. Failure, and this is what is magic for me about talking about it, is it has one thing that we can all agree upon. We missed something. Something didn't go as planned. Either it's the outcome or either it's the process. But somewhere, something messed up. All the rest, absolutely all the rest, all the other things, the consequences, the deep scars that you are carrying, the burden, in any way you call it, and whatever you call it, it depends on you. And it will probably be slightly or a lot different when it concerns me. So this is why we have to go there. This is the first step. The second step is to understand.
Can I? So, like, before you go to the second step, though, I just want to put, just because there's such, at least I think this is the same in Europe as well, but there seems to be such a surge and an awareness and a normalization of a culture of therapy, right? A culture of looking at these, let's call them traumas, for the lack of a very overused term.
Yes.
I want to kind of tie this in a bow, but just want to get your professional kind of opinion on this. It's kind of doing the work to think about why are you holding on to this? Why are you, and really kind of addressing that before you can take that step number 2. Yes.
The first thing is just to try and name what failure means to you. So we are not looking for a definition. We are not even looking at
For an event, like a specific event, right?
or situation. We are just looking at words. What does it mean to you? And what you shared, Ladek, is that failure to you is fear of judgment.
100%.
Looking stupid, appearing dumb in front of people, that's fear of judgment. Okay. For other persons, it will be not achieving standards. If you talk about real perfectionists, I mean, in a neurotic way, so in a pathological way, failure for them is not achieving their goals as high as they put their standards. And even though they cross the finish line, and even though they pass the test or any example, they are still unhappy. They are still sad. They are still angry at themselves, and they still blame themselves for not doing as good as they thought they would do or they should do. So this is the first step. What does it mean to you? Because in companies, for example, when you have people that, let me go back to the example. If you are like in the mindset that failure is an opportunity, and for me, failure is a blame and something that will last and that will stick with me.
The scar, yeah.
A long time. It's really hard to have the other person move and to be in a you can provide with any training you want in leadership and stuff. If the background is that bad, you will have to go there and understand why she named it like that, where does it come from, and from there you can go to the other part, which is the behavioral patterns that the person developed over time to deal with that perception of failure. And just acknowledging that it's okay, she sees failure as that bad, it doesn't make her a bad person. Okay, it's her history. It's what she learned in life, and it's her experience. But you have to start from her point of view and not yours. Because if you want to turn me into failure as an opportunity, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not, even though my mind can understand that, and even though I can say, yes, I'm willing to turn failure into opportunities, it is very likely that my behaviors, that my day-to-day behavior will not go along with that, because I have deeply rooted mechanism developed over time. So the second thing is to try and understand how it affects me and my identity. And I can go deeper into that if you want. But the third part, then, and only then, if you want to make long-lasting changes in people's mindset and behaviors, it's only the third part to address what do we do with that. And I understand how you think about failure, how you perceive yourself, you perceive others. Okay, that's one thing. We have words. We understand it's fear of judgment for you, so we have to deal with that. And so, okay, what do we put as an action plan to get you moving and try to and get a new perimeter that will help you try and test new things from your starting point?
I love it. I'm just sitting here. Unfortunately, you're now diagnosing me, so now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? So go ahead.
One thing that is very, very funny is that I understood that sometimes people put a lot of pressure on themselves, especially when you try to understand what went wrong at some point, where even whatever it is, it's a test at an exam, a job interview, or maybe a romance, a relationship that ended, and you see that the person in front of you is kind of stuck at that event. One thing that is really really nice, because you see that people understand. It doesn't mean yet that they will change, but they understand things. The first thing is to try and make them understand that everybody fails. We are not perfect, okay? So it happens everywhere, every time. as I often say, safe mode only works for computers. As we are humans, we try, we test things. It doesn't work all the time as we would like it to. But one thing that is important is to understand, and we will not go through that because I'm not an expert in that field, but just to introduce the topic, I am amazed about how many people still don't know about cognitive bias and how the brain works, because the brain has been designed to mislead us all the time. All the time. We are making approximative assumptions, you know? And if you basically understand this one, it changes everything. It doesn't discharge you from the responsibility you have to act on that, but at least it releases a little pressure, I would say. And let me just share one cognitive bias for all of the learning community, because this is my favorite one. It's the self-serving bias. Do you know about that one?
No, tell me about it.
It's really simple, and we have all experienced it at least once in our lives. And I bet on that a lot. When I win, it's thanks to me. It can be my preparation, it can be my skills, it can be my talent, my hard work, anything you want. But the bias is when I win, the responsibility is mine. When I lose,
somebody else.
It's the professional trainer. You see, it's the lack of responsibility only when I lose. If you understand only that, and we've all been through that at least once, if you understand that, you can take a little perspective on yourself, saying, okay, am I really that, how do you say it in English, clear-minded?
Sure.
Am I looking at things in truth and not telling myself stories, fake stories?
Sure. And that's one of the hardest things about, like, to be able to look at a situation with an unbiased perspective, right? With that.
It's impossible.
It's impossible as an individual, obviously, but you can get closer,
Yes.
with an understanding.
You can train yourself at it. And the very good news is that knowing about the bias doesn't prevent them from occurring, but it gives you a little perspective and a little, you get a little some kind of safety perimeter when you say, okay, this is my strong beliefs and strong conviction. And conviction mean this is what I truly believe in, not conviction as in felony. This is what I deeply believe, and I will stand for that. Just I'm standing from what I'm sharing with you, but I don't pretend it is the truth, nor the only one.
Right.
And then when you get to talk about failure in Europe, when you talk about failure in America, when you talk about failure in Asia or in North Africa, you must be humble. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If you come and say, I will tell you what failure means for you guys and girls, it doesn't work. And when you first try to understand, and then you say, okay, maybe I can say a few things about that, we can go along quite well.
Take me to this. So I want to go back to kind of like the student teacher or the student in a classroom kind of perspective, because this, I think, applies to younger students, college age students, and then even adult learners who are either who've gone back to school or are kind of in professional development. When we're thinking about failure, like there's a lot of stress and anxiety around, especially high stake tests, like that final exam, or standardized tests, or even like if you were an adult, completing that certification of some kind. And yet when these same people are in other situations, like, and I'm going to give you maybe some comical ones, but I'm thinking about all the college students who are happy to play a video game where they fail over and over and over and over and over, literally thousands of times until they get it right. Or, if you're on the football team or the soccer team, or if you're playing a sport, you allow yourself to fail over and over and over and over and over until you get it. A tennis serve. I mean, how many tennis serves have I done? And I still am not very good at it, but I still want to do. And yet you get to that other point where there's this perception of high stakes. There's this perception of, if I don't deliver, the world will end. Talk me through that. How do we either understand those two pieces, those two different, the willingness to approach those situations differently? And how do we bring one into the other? So it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it my best try. And then I'm going to take the next step. Over to you.
Thanks for bringing that up. That will be really interesting, I hope, for the viewers. The first thing, there are a few things that we can say. The first one is, you mentioned one key learning that I hope people will bring with them when they watch us. If nothing's at stake, I cannot fail. Let's just let that hang there for a second. If nothing's at stake, I love that. That's, yes, 100%, right? This has been one of the most valuable things that I've discovered talking to people, interviewing people for the book, preparing for the TEDx talk. If nothing's at stake, I don't fail. Let's take an example. You talk about tennis. I don't play tennis. I'm probably one of the worst tennis player in the world, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. And so if there's nothing at stake, there's no failure.
And I want to riff on that. I want to just sort of because one of the things I've been playing tennis now fairly regularly for, let's call it 15 years, right? I learned as an adult, and it became my sport as an adult, right?
Okay.
But something I noticed probably 2 or 3 years in is I would go out and I would get destroyed by my friends, by whomever, but at the end I would always be happy. But now I'm resonating with what you're saying here, because even today, like, I win sometimes, but sometimes I get creamed, and yet I'm still, you know what? I just love it. And it was always, but now you've given me that phrase, because there is nothing at stake for me. I'm there to have fun with somebody else. I'm there to have some exercise and enjoy the weather. Like, there is no outcome I'm trying to achieve other than to have a good time. Right. So it's really interesting. So the sport means nothing.
Yeah. I understand. The game means nothing. You are there to have fun and to enjoy. And this is really okay. So the stakes are not that high. And you will see that if we go through how do we use failure as something to grow, this is something I always do with professionals is, where's the bar? Where do you set the bar? What are the expectations? Because if we work, you and I try to, and I'm willing to make you the best tennis player ever, and you don't give a shit because, let's face it, it's just for fun,
right?
We will have trouble, So nothing at stake, no failure. The second thing is, what's behind the game? What's behind the exam? What's behind the lesson? And the fact that people are playing video games, even though they lose and they lose and they lose, is probably because the stakes is maybe to have just fun or to have time with their buddy because they are chatting while they are playing. But there's a sense of learning. There's a notion of progress. And okay, I'm losing for now. Keep laughing, pals, because when I'll be ready and when I'll be back, it will hurt. and you will know that I'm there, And so for a lot of us, it is okay to endure a failing phase, as long as we truly believe that we are gaining, we are getting better, we are in a curve of learning, and we are in the process, and that we see that the outcome is coming at some point. Otherwise, we get discouraged, and the learning curve goes down again. So this is why we have to set achievable challenges to people. Even whatever the context, if you take a sportsman, if you take a classroom, if you take pros, you have to put achievable goals so that people can still have the drive to go for it and say, okay, I play an instrument. You talk about sport. I played the guitar, and I've been playing for 25 years, I guess, right now. And I've dropped the guitar for 2 or 3 years, and I've started again because I have two things. The first one is I definitely want to take my guitar on stage and play riffs and have fun with people. So the stakes are really high for me because I couldn't be with myself if I make a bad note or a riff that people would not recognize. So the stakes are set. I want to go on stage with the guitar. I'm used to play guitar. I'm used to perform on stage when I speak, and I've been doing quite a few gigs when I was younger. So I know there's a fit that I can find. And the other thing is that when I took back my guitar a few months ago, and when I started to do Metallica riffs, I couldn't go with the speed of Master of Puppets or a few heavy songs that were quite fast. And this pissed me off, I have to say. Really, I'm sorry if I'm being rude, but this really pissed me off because I used to master the songs. And so it's a challenge for myself. Nobody's watching, nobody's listening. But I just said to myself, you're going to nail this one again, pal. And so you have the stake, you have the drive, and you have to have the resource. Otherwise, it won't work. You can have the best energy, you can have the best motivation. If you don't find the resource, and if you don't manage the resource, both, I don't know, it depends on the project, but the time to study, the money to build maybe a business or to keep a company running, or the time you invest with your loved one to make sure that the relationship gets serious, and through time, whatever you want to call it, but all the resources that can lead something to fail or to succeed, this is something you have to manage. Sometimes I meet with students, and they say, it's nice when you talk about failure, but I don't feel that I am failing. And the guy or the girl share that she failed 2 or 3 times in the course of study over the years. And first I said to myself, wow, what a change of mindset. And this is really good because I failed 1 year at university, the first one, and I still talk about it 20 years later.
Absolutely.
A part of me says, this is good that perceptions have changed and there's some kind of acceptance of that. But at the same time, you can hear when you let the person talk, you can hear slowly if it's really some kind of, let's say, resilience, and say, okay, it's okay, I failed 2 or 3 times, but it was the time needed to find my path or to know myself better, which are all good. But sometimes you can hear that it's still something that he or she is running away from. Sure. Say, failure is not that bad. Failure is okay. I will learn from that. But obviously, if you take a deeper conversation, if you are really actively listening to the person, you understand that she doesn't care about learning. She's just trying to avoid a responsibility or trying to say, hey, well, okay, hey, whatever. And this is not how it works. So maybe the stakes are not set for the person. Maybe the drive is not there. But also maybe the resources are not set. Who are the person, one example of resource I love, who are the 2 or 3 people around me? It may be a relative, but it may be friends, it may be a teacher, it may be a classmate, whoever. Who around you are the 2 or 3 people you can give a call when you are at the bottom of your life, and that you feel like you're a loser, you feel that nothing's going well, you feel that it's the end of the end. Who are the 2 or 3 people? These are the resource. If you don't have, if the people who are watching us or listening to us don't have a face or 2 or 3 buddies that pop in mind, this is the first thing they have to do when we are done talking. They have to go and look to them because they are the safety people. They are the ones that can help us. Sometimes they can prevent us from failing and from derailing completely. But they are also the ones that can help us get back on track.
I was going to say, start the recovery, like start the, like standing back up, right? When you're talking about those people, I'm thinking of the people. It's like when something has happened, or you feel, or you have that perception of, wow, I really just screwed that up, or I didn't achieve that, or like you have to have those people where they're like, hey, look, we love you no matter what. It's going to be fine. Like, you're safe here. It's good. Now let's, and then you can take that deep breath and then take the first step.
But we have to have those. So we have to have something at stake. Otherwise, we're not failing. We have to have drive. We have to have resources. And among the resources, we have to have people. And sometimes it doesn't imply to go and find some kind of Tibetan master or something, with the big beard and no hair. I'm starting like what?
I was gonna say, you're moving in that direction.
I just realized that seeing myself, but you know what I mean. We don't need necessarily somebody of that type. It may be someone that you are working with. It may be someone that is already around. Most of the time, when I do that exercise and when I ask people to deeply look around, the person that can be that guy or that girl is already there.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't see that this person can be the backup person, saying, okay, no matter what, I know that I can talk to you with. I know that I can ask you for help whenever I need it. If you have somebody in mind, it is absolutely crucial that you empower the person with that role and that you ask the permission. Is it okay for you? Because I consider yourself as some kind of an example, some kind of people that I can fully trust, or don't know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but most of the time I say these are your Jedis, Star Wars. And so, okay, it's not Yoda. Yoda is the master, is too far. But the Jedis, these are the ones we want to look up to and say, when I will be an adult, I would like to be a little bit like you when I'm a grown up, when I'm somebody who say, okay, now I can say that I've done some work and that I've learned some things, and maybe I can pass the baton. You have to look at people you want to say that to, and this is crucial.
Yeah, take me home. So we're gonna kind of like take me to the last part of, we've talked about defining failure, understanding what it means to us. Finding the making sure that we have those resources, making sure that we understand there's something at stake, making sure that we have people we can fall back on, that we can trust, etc. Lots of different wonderful things that you've put on in the conversation today.
Thank you.
If we've achieved that, let's just say that we're at that point now where we're ready to now say either move on from or we are ready to take another try at something. Like how do we turn that setback into that next step of, I guess that's the question, isn't it? Is trying again, is that the definition of success here?
There's a French philosopher who wrote a book about failing virtues. And his name is Charles Pepin. And I'm going to quote him because I think this is really it lights up things in mind and hearts. And he said that there are 3 types of failures. The first one is the dead end. Sometimes we need to take the road and say, oh, okay, sorry, been there, done that. I know this is not for me now. Okay. Probably that if you take me on a tennis court, I will try that once and I will say, okay, been there, done that, not for me. And this is okay because you still learn something. You know your limits, you're not good at that thing, and you can focus on something else. Okay, this is the first type of failure. The second type of failure is the failure that makes us stronger, that makes us wants to go for it again, better prepared, or better trained, or with a higher motivation, a better drive, saying, okay, this time I will nail it. I will nail this thing. I will go through it, and I will take it to climax, as I said. And the third type of failure is the failure that makes us, that I don't know how to phrase it, that makes us available for something else.
Transforms us.
Yes, transforms. The three types can transform us, hopefully. But this particular one, I've been through it like 2 years ago. My personal life collapsed, and basically nobody died, but I lost the girlfriend, the son, the father and mother, the sister, everything was torn apart. I don't know how. I understood now, but everything collapsed. At some point, the only thing you have to do is say, okay, that now that everything that matters is gone, what can I do? And so one thing is to go into maybe pathologies, burnout, depression, even suicidal tendencies or thoughts and stuff. Delinquency, okay, let's go for bad behaviors. Or you can say, I don't know what to do. I don't even know the light at the end of the tunnel, which is really rare. It was the first time it happened for me in my life. I've always believed that there would be a light, and most of the time I could see it. But this time I didn't even see the light. And I said to myself, okay, I just have to let go, and I just have to wake up just another morning. And that's it. Otherwise, it would have been a burnout, if the body would have let me down, I would have said, okay, it's burnout. I'm crushed, and I just have to have medical attention and probably psychological attention. But I did not get that because I could wake up every morning and get out of bed. Couldn't do anything else, but this was the first start, and so this cleared the path to rebuild something. And sometimes fortunately, I was not injured. I was not, let's say, disabled or things like that. So I consider myself lucky, of course. But it's just to demonstrate that failure that makes us, that cleared the way, is probably the best way for me to express that, are also sometimes needed in life to put things in order. And so first, let's say to bounce back or to turn the obstacle into miracle, you have to understand what type of failure is it. Is it something that say, okay, good for me, dead end, I will go for it, better, stronger, or it makes room for anything else? I still don't know what it is, but I trust the process, and eventually on the path, we will find something. This would be the first thing. The other thing is, and in the behavioral patterns, it is deeply, you can see it when you talk to people and you try to understand how they behave. One of the things that distinguishes with people who bounce back, let's say, quite easily from people that get stuck, is that the people who get stuck, they tend to identify as their failures. And so they say, I screwed up, but the screwing part, which can be totally minor regarding who they are, it tends to take all the space. And suddenly they don't say, I have failed. They say, I'm a failure. And from that point, everything derails. So this is something that you have to check. If you have children, and when you listen, when they fail at something, at sport, in an exam, in a relationship with their friends or stuff, you have to be deeply aware that the words they are using to describe themselves are probably an insight, maybe a clue. It doesn't mean that if they say, oh, I'm a failure, it doesn't mean that they are and that they believe they are. But if you take that and you add another few other clues, they tend to isolate themselves. They tend to see the world as bad and dangerous and negative, and they will develop patterns that leads to fear, that leads to how do you say that? They will stop believing that they can have an impact on their life and on the world. Is it fatalism? Is that how you do it? Is that how you name it?
Fatalistic. Okay, yeah, let's use that. That's good.
And so if you take all of those ingredients, you have the bad recipe. Okay, so understand the type of failure you are facing. Understand that you are not the failure that is happening to us. It doesn't define you. Taking responsibility, having being able to say, okay, for this exam, I did not study well. For this job interview, I was on the wrong website.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was the wrong fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to agree with that, because of course, I'm gonna quote Brené Brown. I love Brené Brown. You probably know about her work. She talks about the power of vulnerability. You shared that for you, failure means fear of judgment, right? And what does it imply? It implies shame. If you fail at something, it's because you get from others the perception that you are stupid, and so you feel judged, and what the outcome is shame. You feel ashamed. And Brené Brown says this wonderful life transforming sentence: shame cherishes secret. As long as you, the way to beat and to defeat shame is to share. Because as long as it's shared, it loses its power on you. Shame.
Right.
And if you think about it, you've experienced it. When you were ashamed because you did something bad and you didn't dare telling your parents. As long as from the minute you said it, of course there was some some consequences, and you couldn't watch TV, you couldn't go out, or the internet was unplugged, or things. Okay, but the shame feeling that you had and the burden you were carrying, it goes away. And so this is something that is very, very, very necessary to do. And we don't do that often in the workplace, for example,
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And so this is why this is magical, and probably we could talk a lot, but I see the clock is
but here's the thing. I mean, this wasn't the eLearn. This was the eLearn therapy session for Ladek. But thank you very much. This has been absolutely fantastic conversation. I love when we can talk about such an important topic, because this is something that's a part of everybody's life. And you've given us not only some strategies, but some great mile markers along the way to, help us understand, when are we experiencing failure? How do we experience it? How can we reframe our thinking around it? And then, how to take a next step to move towards that success or that climax that we're destined for next. So thanks so much for taking time out of your afternoon or your evening there in Belgium. You said Belgium, right? Yeah. If anybody wants to reach out to you, they can.
9 p.m. now.
Oh, nice. All right. Fantastic. So, Fred Colantonio, people can find you on LinkedIn using your name. And Thank you so much. I wish you the best evening.
Thank you so much, Ladek.